Hey everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. We're debuting a rebranded version of the wrestling content here on the channel. We're going to call it Off the Top Rope. And first version of this, I want to tackle what I think might be a divisive topic here on the internet. Because NXT is clearly going into a new era on the CW. AEW is probably going to get a new television deal announced here relatively shortly. But it's clear that these two are going to start competing with each other relatively soon. I think in early October, NXT and AEW Dynamite are going to be on the same night. So what I wanted to do here is pose a question and kind of give you my side of things here. Will NXT at some point surpass AEW? Because if you remember, it was the other way around. AEW surpassed NXT about 4 or 5 years ago. And it caused NXT to completely overhaul its content and its vision from the black and gold days where it was banger match after banger match, which caused a movement in WWE because that was so much better than main roster content under Vince McMahon. And I think that's the reason why AEW exists right now. And when you look at things where they are, NXT in 2021 lost out. And the executives in Nick Khan, Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, a lot of the people over there decided to overhaul their vision and focus more on the stars of tomorrow and go to more of a raw talent, NIL, former college athlete type of mindset. And you've seen those stars come out over your screens. Braun Breaker, Tiffany Stratton, Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams are some of the names that come to mind as well. Also, Lyra Valkyria, who's a very experienced wrestler but very young. Same thing with Ilya Dragunov. They've gone to this hybrid model, but I've seen a lot of AEW tribalists make the argument, oh, well, why is NXT down from when they were at 1 million 5 years ago? Well, because they changed things. But I would argue that AEW is declining. And that's not even really an argument. The facts are there. Year over year, you look at the ratings from this week's episode of Dynamite was at 716,000. A year ago, 888,000. Which begs the question, what's changed? Well, they added Mercedes Moné, they added Will Ospreay, and they added Kazuchika Okada. And the result of that, year over year, just using that small sample size, is you lost almost 200,000 viewers. So, whereas you look at NXT, they were going up against a presidential debate this week. And they only declined. They stayed relatively flat. They lost like 3,000 viewers week over week. And they're relatively at around the same number that they've been consistently. They've gone a little bit upward. Because they have developed so many interesting and intriguing characters. It's become a place where a lot of, established talent, they brought in a Julia, which is one of the biggest international stars out there, and coming into that division. Stephanie Vaquer is probably going to show up there eventually as well. Ethan Page, a big-time star all over the place. AEW didn't know how to use him. He's the champion now. And you've got Trick Williams, who is clearly one of the future stars of tomorrow in WWE. And he's at the top of the NXT card. So the question, again, is, do I think NXT will surpass AEW? And I think the answer is yes. The evidence is already there. They're building up a lot of these stars of tomorrow. I've heard rumors that the Motor City Machine Guns might show up there. So you're bringing in established stars and having the stars of tomorrow build up your roster. You've got a network television contract going to CW, 2 major shows in major arenas, which has never been done before in the history of NXT. I just really think that the trajectory that NXT is on and the momentum that they have had under Shawn Michaels, bringing in TNA people, just a variety of different interesting storylines and interesting, compelling characters that they have on the television, whereas AEW is the exact same that they were 3 years ago when NXT shut down and overhauled its product and became 2.0, which a lot of people didn't like, but clearly it's working because Tiffany Stratton, main roster talent, is probably going to be a women's champion very soon. Braun Breaker's already the Intercontinental Champion. Trick Williams is one of the most over stars in all of WWE, and he's in NXT. Carmelo Hayes is already great on the main roster. I could keep going. Lyra Valkyria was in the finals for the King of the Ring. Like, NXT, this new version is clearly working. You've got interesting people who have raw ability that, obviously, being in a performance center, which is right on site where these shows take place, they're able to learn and grow their craft at a really quick rate. Tiffany Stratton, been in the business for 3 years, and this is one of the main reasons why I think NXT is growing. Yeah, they had to go down a little bit, which a lot of people in AEW really have an odd association with. Oh man, what happens in the last 5 years? Guys, they changed things. It's a different thing. It became a developmental product, but I would argue it's going to probably surpass AEW on a pretty consistent basis moving forward, because it's becoming more of a hybrid model. It's being treated again like a third show because of all of the new talent, and just to becoming an attractive place to be. Julia is one of the hottest commodities. She was one of the hottest commodities in all of professional wrestling. She chose WWE, and she chose she wanted to go to NXT, and she's going to be a star there. And she's going to face Roxanne Perez, who I failed to mention earlier in this video. Roxanne Perez is maybe one of the futures of women's wrestling in general at 22 years of age. And she went to WWE as well. And she's been a staple on this product as well. But the combination of, NXT getting all of this momentum through this partnership with TNA, through all these new intriguing characters and these storylines that are being established across weekly television, going to premium live events, going to the CW on television. Like I said, all those things are things of momentum that indicate to me that they're growing. Whereas AEW, I gave you the numbers, year over year, they're down despite adding all of this talent and doing all of these crazy things, like going to Wembley Stadium for a second year in a row, announcing another show in Australia. It's window dressing, because at some point the numbers have to matter, and NXT has been going up. AEW has been going down for years. Nobody's going to their shows. So at some point in the near, not too distant future, NXT is going to surpass AEW. And at some point, the people in AEW, even when they get their new contract, are going to have hard conversations of like, we need to change something up here, because whatever they've been doing is not working. NXT decided to make the change because they had flatlined, and there was a like product on the other side of Black and Gold, which is AEW exists because of NXT Black and Gold. There are so many people over there. Buddy Matthews, Malachi Black, Adam Cole, who has been in and out of television. But a lot of the cornerstones that were brought over there were from the Samoa Joe. Old NXT are now in AEW, and it's the same mindset. Banger matches, limited storytelling. And WWE got to a point a few years ago where they were like, yeah, this ain't working. We've got to start building for tomorrow. And it's clearly worked. The stars that they've brought in are, becoming like the staples of this of the WWE brand, not just NXT. So again, going back to the main point, NXT will surpass AEW at some point in the near future. It may not happen immediately after CW. There will probably be that initial boost because CM Punk is going to be there. But once we get past that initial phase and CW presents this as a big time show, we saw what it did to SmackDown when they went to Fox. This is going to start being presented as a third brand. And when it starts to beat AEW, that's when I think you're going to start to have real discussions. And all you AEW tribalists and marks are going to have real conversations with yourselves, and maybe try to get in your boss's ear to try and say, hey, Tony, whatever you're doing ain't working. I know you won't do that, but that's why I'm here, to come off the top rope, like the name of this show, and tell you how it is. So that's how I feel on this. A lot of great content coming into this weekend. We'll have a SmackDown reaction, a lot of big stuff. SmackDown debuting on USA tonight. And then a lot of great sports content with the NFL this weekend in college football. So like, share, and subscribe here to the channel. OT Mike Sports on Twitter, Off the Mic 28 on Twitter if you want to follow me. Thanks again. I appreciate you all tuning in and subscribing and giving me all the support. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.